Sports news and the biggest fight in British boxing history. Well, that's how the rematch between Carl Froch and George Groves is being billed, and with good reason. It was confirmed today that it would be the first fight ever staged at the new Wembley Stadium with a potential crowd of 80,000.
Wow. Froch, who is of course from Nottingham, knows he'll have a tough battle. He won the last meeting in controversial circumstances when the referee halted the fight despite Groves looking on top in the previous rounds. I spoke to Carl a short time ago from his home and began by asking if the enormity of fighting at Wembley had sunk in.
I don't think it has. It probably won't sink in until I'm doing my ring walk, to be honest, because, you know, 20,000 at the O2 in London was massive, and this potentially could be, well, it could be quadruple that. We can get as much up to 80,000, I think, in Wembley. So it just shows the magnitude of the fight and potentially, you know, what we may be able to do. So, you know, it's proud for me to be able to, you know, fill a stadium of such magnitude for this event, but it shows how big the event is.
Yes, it is. It's massive, isn't it? How will you approach this? I mean, I assume you're going to change your tactics slightly from the previous fight. You yourself have said to me that you weren't the best you can be in that last fight. What's going to be different?
Yeah, I think in the first fight he got inside my head a little bit. He wound me up, he got under my skin, and I went out there trying to catch him with a big shot early on. You saw that in round one. I caught him with a small uppercut as I was backed up to the ropes. And because I caught him with that shot, I then reached in and leaped in, trying to do him with a big right hook, which is a shot I don't usually throw, especially in round one. So I opened myself up to a counter punch, took the counter punch and hit the deck. So, you know, I need to learn from that. I need to give him more respect as a fighter. I don't like him as a person. I'll never like him, you know. I'll never be invited him around for Sunday lunch, that's for sure. But I've got to give him some respect. He's certainly got my attention as a fighter. So, you know, I'll box and move a little bit early on, and then I'll take him to war later on in the fight, and I can only see it going one way again. I think he's going to fall apart as the fight goes on, as I start hitting him around the body and head. I honestly don't think he's tough enough, but he'd have learnt from that fight. He'll realise that, you know, I can be hurt because he put me down, but I don't know where he's going to get his confidence from, because he hit me with everything but the kitchen sink for 5 or 6 rounds, and I was still coming at him, still smiling at him and snarling at him and pushing him back.
I remember, Carl, after your first world title fight back in 2008, you spoke to us live on the programme afterwards, and it was such a big deal. You had your mum with you and everything. Jump forward 6 years, you're the biggest star in the world in boxing. How does that feel?
Yeah, it's unbelievable to see how far I've come from then. I mean, it was December 2008, I boxed an unbeaten fighter, Jean Pascal, at the Nottingham Arena, and then, you know, 6 years later, I'm hopefully going to be filling out a football stadium, and very, very few fighters get the opportunity to fill a stadium.
Just briefly then, I know Rob McCracken, I know him well, of course, your trainer from Birmingham. He's going to make sure you are 100% for this fight, because he knows what this means now, doesn't he? You
can have a talk to Rob, actually, Steve, and make sure he's on me.
I'll have a word with him, Carl. I'll be talking to you a lot as well in the build-up to May the 31st, but for now, thank you for talking to us.
Pleasure.
It is always a pleasure to talk to Carl.
It trusts you, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's going to be epic, that is.
Yes, with that big news I promised you last night, because it is likely to be the biggest boxing event in British history. A record crowd is expected for the rematch between Nottingham's Carl Froch and Londoner George Groves. That's because today, astonishingly, the National Stadium at Wembley was unveiled as the venue for May's battle. And Mark Shardlow's been there.
So after all the talking, it's going to be here, Wembley. Scene of England's Football World Cup win, Bob Geldof's Live Aid, and now Carl Froch's latest fight.
We looked at the City Ground, we looked at many other venues, but this was the one, the National Stadium, you know, the one steeped in history, that gives us the chance to really break all kinds of records.
Between 60 and 90,000 tickets will be available when they go on sale on Monday. It's the first fight at the newly rebuilt Wembley Stadium. Frank Bruno was the last man to fight here. Before that, Henry Cooper knocked down Cassius Clay, later to be known as Muhammad Ali. This is how Wembley looked early that day, with Richard Burton and Elizabeth Taylor, film stars, in the front row. Those front row seats this May will cost £1,500. The cheap ones, £30.
Well, this is the home changing room, obviously where the England team are and prepare, and this will be the change room for the champ, Carl Froch. These are definitely the plushest that I think you'll ever find. And this is the changing rooms where Rob McCracken and Carl Froch will do their thing, prepare to walk out into the open air in front of 70 or 80,000 people at Wembley Stadium for a huge fight.
It's magnificent for me to be involved in a fight of this magnitude at this stage of my career. Not many fighters can come out of the career and say, I sold a stadium out.
Carl Froch against George Groves, a rematch for the WBA and IBF Super Middleweight Championship of the World. The grudge match, the rivalry, the banter, you know, the build-up is going to lead to just one epic night for British sport here at Wembley Stadium.
To fill an arena like the Nottingham Arena and the O2 in London, 20,000, the MEN in Sheffield, and then for them to now be too small, for me it's just unbelievable, it's brilliant.
The night before the fight, England's footballers play Peru here. The ground staff will have less than 24 hours to turn it into a boxing arena fit for a remarkable night. Mark Shardlow, BBC East Midlands Today, Wembley.